Chennedy Carter had one of her best games of the season in Friday night's win over the Los Angeles Sparks. It certainly wasn't the loudest by her prolific standards in terms of box score, putting up just gaudy numbers in terms of scoring and efficiency and just dominating the paint, but also being able to play make off the attention she sees. But it was the manners in which she went about operating, the composure she showed, the mental stamina to take on the attention she was garnering, counter it into scoring for herself, but also to play make for others, doing so in such a good rhythm and cadence and balance that she kept her teammates in position to be successful. This is exactly what the Sky are going to need, especially without Angel Reese being in the lineup the rest of the season. Nonetheless, this is the timestamp moment in Chennedy Carter's just generally prolific 2024. 15 points. Again, not the loudest, especially by her standards, her being an elite scorer, one of the best scorers in the W this season. But with the attention she was garnering, the efficiency she scored with, and also being able to get to 7 assists, a season high, 0 turnovers, and 14 assist points created from those 7 assists that she had. And the timing within it all is most important. Just really showcased just her growth as a basketball player, the composure to take on with stamina, the extra attention, and consistently make the right decisions, put herself and put her teammates in successful positions. Just really speaks to where she's at in her career. So let's go ahead and dive into the film from the Sky's win against the Los Angeles Sparks. First play we're going to be seeing here is going to be an Angel Reese grab and go. Now, unfortunately, we won't see any more of these the rest of this season in particular, but projecting forward, with her being the most dominant rebounder in the W this season in her rookie campaign, mind you, something the Sky can certainly generate a lot of tempo and pace from in terms of getting into their offense with some flow and some tempo, is Angel just grabbing it and going. She's got a guard here and Lindsay Allen she could outlet it to if she wanted to. But there were a handful of instances in this game in particular where Angel grabbed the rebound and she simply just looked off the guard, took it up the floor herself, being a big guard. And this is something that she can really tap into, and there's going to be even more they can get into as our handle gets tighter and she can start navigating through a little bit of dribbling contact in terms of players being in her airspace. Nonetheless, the value in this possession is going to be seen right away. Her being able to just go from here and without getting into a guard, which is going to take another second or two, and just getting it up the court allows for the Sky to get into their offense with 21 seconds on the shot clock. This is extremely important for a team that typically has to cycle through multiple options before they can get a good look. But because of the tempo that's garnered on this particular possession, she's going to be flowing directly from rebound to dribbling up the court, ultimately with her strong hand, even though she is ambidextrous, and she's able to just flow immediately into a dribble handoff here with Chennedy Carter. And this is extremely important for multiple reasons. For one, it allows for the spacing between her and Camila Cardoso to be a lot more organic. Angel's bringing it up the floor. She also has the ball in her hands, so that forces Dearica Hamby, who's guarding Angel, to be on her in some capacity, bringing her outside the three-point line. Spacing-wise for the Sky, anytime they can get an opposing front-court player outside the three-point line, it's just automatic money. Add to that the fact that they were double-teaming Chennedy Carter in all two-player actions that she was involved with, whether it be dribble handoffs like this in pick-and-roll adjacent scenarios or traditional pick-and-roll where Kennedy's getting the ball. Chennedy was seeing two players in an aggressive manner all game. You see that Dearica Hamby here, one of the best hedging bigs in the W, ultimately putting 2 to the ball here. And watch how Chennedy is operating. First of all, the big thing here, sometimes when players get 2 to the ball, they rush. Chennedy was never rushed in any capacity. You talked about her getting double-teamed all game. 0 turnovers, and a lot of passes made out of it. Really speaks to her composure, like I mentioned in the opening. Chennedy just being able to accept the double-team with patience, and then being able to allow for the dust to settle on it and to allow for the offensive advantages to create themselves rather than her trying to pull all the strings herself, really just speaks to where she's at with her processing. Is able to steal back leverage on Hamby, able to threaten where Hamby doesn't want her to get to. Now she's got the space that she needs to make a pass. She's able to quickly get her eyes up and assess the help defense around, and we're going to ultimately see the pass that she makes. After she's able to evade Hamby, you see she's able to get back to ice to one-on-one coverage as you see Hamby kind of duck back into the paint to reestablish the defensive shell. But the timing at which Chennedy decides to get into this corner skip on a diagonal is what ultimately creates the advantage. Her getting this dribble handoff early in the shot clock allows for her to operate without having to rush, allow for the dust to settle on the double team, ultimately allow for her to create new space and then see the defense get back into their shell. But because she was ultimately holding two to the ball that early in the shot clock, it's going to allow for the Sky to play in the advantage once they're able to get the ball out of the two to the ball scenario. And as we see here with Kennedy's patience, she's able to find where the advantage is. Her being double teamed is the trigger. Her patience able to set the advantage. She's able to get the corner skip to Diamond DeShields. As you see the switch from Rickea Jackson, the low man, going from tagging to cutter on the baseline, which big time hat tip to Camila Cardoso, playing in the advantage to ultimately create the passing opportunity for Chennedy. Chennedy sees it, hits Diamond DeShields, and now they're playing to keep the advantage. One thing to set the advantage, now it's time to maintain it in terms of keeping it. Diamond DeShields, after the great time skip pass from Chennedy Carter, is able to catch it, go ahead and attack the closeout. Closeouts are good money for this guy in terms of playing off of them when they're able to create them. They do just that. They get almost another paint touch, but this is as good as a paint touch because look at how the defense ultimately collapses on Diamond as she blows by Rickea Jackson. She's got 4 players committed to the ball. This is such a well-timed pass from Diamond DeShields to Camila Cardoso, who is extremely underrated. You think about spacing being around the three-point line and empty corners, all of that stuff. Post spacing is just as important in functionality. Being able to space off of a drive, knowing that a guard or a player with the ball garnered the attention of your player is extremely important, especially on timing. And we see just that great time pass from Diamond DeShields after a great drive into the closeout. Great job respacing from Camila Cardoso to put herself in position to be successful. Catches it, gets up quick with it before Dearica Hamby can recover. Kisses it off the glass at the perfect angle. And we've talked a lot about Camila finishing in the paint, especially in the restricted area. It's these type of plays where she's been just right on time and on schedule with this guy. And this is just a great play again, all with Chennedy Carter getting 2 to the ball as a trigger. And we see it from the baseline view this time. You see how she's just patient, attacks the leverage, ultimately gets space. The pace at which everything is happening as they play and read and react. And you see the dominoes fall in their favor on this rep. Just great process from the Sky playing off of Chennedy getting 2 to the ball there. And then this is a fun dynamic as well. We talked about Angel and her grabbing goals. Chennedy gets after it on the glass too, on the defensive glass. And when she catches it or gets a rebound, she can just take off as well. No outlet needed. They're going to do a good job, as you can see, with Angel communicating early as she's crossing the half-court line. Empty this corner so we can get into this empty corner drag. Again, crossing the half-court line with 21 seconds on the clock, allowing for them to get through multiple options if need be. And customary to the first possession, like we talked about, Chennedy in 2-player scenarios, seeing 2 to the ball in multiple capacities. Dearica Hamby, being one of the best hedging bigs in the W, is going to be up to touch at the level of the screen. Boom, you see the contact there. You see Angel just communicated for, I believe it's Michaela in the strong side corner to empty that. We're going to see her do just that. Make the defense rotate in terms of spacing, but also giving the Sky, or forcing the Sparks, to toggle their defensive responsibilities. The pass that Kennedy's ultimately going to make to Angel is not going to be there without the preemptive communication to empty that strong side corner. And by way of that, as we get back to it, we want to pay attention to 2 things here. 3 things actually. 1, Angel's screen does just enough for Chennedy to come off and engage Dearica Hamby fully. 2, the timing at which Angel Reese looks to slip out of the screen. And then 3, Chennedy just being able to consistently steal leverage. We talked about Dearica being one of the best hedging bigs in the W. She's in very good positioning. Her hips are right where they need to be in terms of taking away. The angle of her hips is directly to the opposite corner where the half court meets the sideline. That's right where you want it to be. And she's in perfect positioning in terms of leverage. Chennedy is just entirely too quick. She's able to steal that leverage, break even. You see the offhand getting involved to help steal leverage. Ultimately, is able to turn the corner. And look at the slip, the timing at which the slip occurs, and Angel's head getting around in addition to that. With that corner being emptied again from the communication that we talked about, Kennedy's able to come off, engage, ultimately steal that leverage, getting downhill, able to hit Angel, and now you see the patience on the switch. Angel's able to play to the basket, and she was 8 for 10 in the paint in this game. This is the type of efficiency you want to see from her going forward. She's able to be patient on the catch, gets to advantageous post positioning, a point where she can get up a soft touch floater, and does just that. Great finish. And then after a make, we see the Sky get it in quickly, and it's a quick hit-ahead pass to Chennedy Carter. I like this part in their process as well. When the timestamp it here, they're crossing the half-court line with 23 seconds on the shot clock. All great in process for them. Another empty corner pick and roll rep for the Chicago Sky. They were cycling through a handful of these, specifically in pick and roll, which is extremely important to their process. And now watch Chennedy and Camila work. This time, different personnel. We talked about De'Erica Hamby being involved with the first two plays. Now it's Azurá Stevens. Azurá Stevens is not one of the best, but she's very, very capable as a versatile defender, being up to touch at the level of the screen and hedging in multiple facets and capacities. We see just that here. She does a solid job in addition to Ray Burrell navigating the screen. We'll love to see Camila do a better job kind of getting more contact or setting a better angle for it. Nonetheless, the purpose in Chennedy being involved with pick and roll is because they're giving two to the ball. That's giving a direct advantage to play out of. However, we're going to see a bit of the snag in the Sky process in terms of their front court players and playmaking. This is something that Isabel Harrison is going to be consistently tasked with, as well as Camila Cardoso and even Breezy Turner, as we see teams potentially start putting more two to the ball on Chennedy Carter and forcing other Chicago Sky players to make plays. We're going to see Chennedy do a good job engaging. There's nothing really there. They haven't shifted the defense much. Only pass that she has to make is to Angel. And now this is where the key is, to make quick decisions before the dust can settle as you see the defense get back into their defensive shell after putting two to the ball. In this scenario, in my personal opinion, on the catch, Angel should have immediately either pump faked, as you see Odyssey Sims go from a jab at to cutting, or to getting back to the cutter that's cutting on the 45 from Lindsey Allen. Quick fake, allow for that to settle, and she should be getting into a right-hand drive right about now. She's completely unaccounted for as you see Azurá Stevens sink all the way down into the paint where you see Camila going to seal. Now, Angel's patient in terms of allowing for Camila to get her seal, but there's an advantage that could be created a lot more easily where Angel's just getting to a straight line drive, getting to the paint, and playing from there off of 2 feet, whether that be the pass to Lindsey Allen, as you can see in respacing, or potentially getting up a soft touch floater for herself and potentially getting fouled. Now, ultimately, they're going to end up getting a basket here, but it's going to take a whole lot more work when they had an advantage that was created with 18, 17 seconds on the clock, as Chennedy had two to the ball. Now, ultimately, like I said, we're going to see them score, but they can make things a lot easier on themselves if teams are conceding two to the ball on Chennedy by just making quick decisions with that first player that's touching the ball if Chennedy does pass it out of that two to the ball scenario. This is a fun rep. After a timeout, we see this guy get into some touch action. Kurt Miller teams are customarily known for being early with nail help, and we're going to see this guy play to that after the timeout. This is really good action, so we get a little bit of touch action. Just a quick pitch for Lindsey to get it back and be able to play off of a live dribble. And now we're going to see the weak side corner be emptied, and it's only going to be Chennedy Carter on that backside. And that's important to note in terms of them manipulating the spacing, because there's not going to be any low man involved. The timing at which Lindsey decides to drive at that customary nail help that's peeled in early, as you can see from Zaya Cook, is going to leave her in a situation to where there's no one to help the helper. As you see Michaela running off of these staggers, you see Ray Burrell completely leave, and you also see Azurá Stevens completely attached to Camila Cardoso on the strong side block at the moment. And you're going to see a complete canal open up for Chennedy. And one of the best things that she brings to the floor, not just dribbling the basketball, playing in pick and roll, being a good decision maker, finishing in the paint, also being able to cut in a timely manner, scripted and unscripted. We see Lindsey with a great drive directly at Zaya Cook, puts her in a position to make a defensive decision. And Kennedy's able to counter off of that because of the timing at which Lindsey decides to drive. Great job on this great kind of dive cut, stampede cut, if you will. She's able to get it on the go, puts a whole ton of pressure on the defense to rotate to her. You can see the rotations coming. And because they have to commit so many bodies to the ball, Kennedy's going to be able to engage, jump off her feet, engage, and she's able to get Azurá off her feet. That's going to completely free Camila Cardoso as she's left unattended on the other side of the floor on the block, and she's able to get up an easy, uncontested finish at the basket. That's Kennedy's playmaking, from cut off the ball to being able to process the defense that she's feeling and that she's seeing, and then play make off of that. Just good on good on good from the Chicago Sky and process right there. And then we get another rep where Chennedy doesn't necessarily get the direct rebound, but she's getting it on the go in transition, where she's one of the best player in the W this season in the transition context. Puts all type of pressure on the defense, changing speeds. And then we also, another empty corner pick and roll rep. She brings this angle a whole lot lower below the free throw line than all of the reps that we've talked about priorly in this film session. But we're going to see Chennedy get into some of her sneaky drives. And what we're going to pay attention to here is how she just flat out bullies smaller guards. She gets her shoulder and gets that contact, and she's able to steal back leverage and then counter with spin moves, as we're going to see here. So we talked about her bringing the angle a whole lot lower than the last couple of reps. We also talked about when she was in two-player actions, opposing bigs being up to touch and at the level of the screen, trying to put two bodies to her as she uses the screen. Now, she's able to do a good job with her pace changes like I talked about. Ultimately, is going to be able to create space. And then we're going to see her get into her bag in terms of bullying smaller guards. She's got Ari McDonald on her this time. Watch this intentional reject, knowing that De'Arica Hamby's at the level of the screen. In addition to that, the only other quote-unquote big on the floor is Rickea Jackson as they go small ball. But Angela Reese is above the free throw line. There's no true size in terms of rim protection at the basket if she can get there. Chennedy processes all of that super quickly early in the shot clock, playing with tempo and pace. She's able to get into a quick reject. Look at the contact she initiates, essentially just moving the smaller defender out the way, carving out space, gets into the spin move. It's tight. De'Arica Hamby can't even get a hand on the ball. And now she spins to freedom. She's able to play off of 2 feet. And again, because there's no true size in terms of rim protection, Kennedy's able to just keep her foot on the gas, get up a contested layup here, and you're going to see her finish with no true rim protection there from the Los Angeles Sparks. Good on good in terms of her process. Another rep here, another grab and go for Chennedy. Grab the rebound, get up the court. 22 seconds left on the shot clock as she crosses the line. Another empty corner pick and roll that we're going to see here with her and Camila Cardoso. Like we talked about on the last rep, Chennedy and her drives. You see her, as you see, this time it's Crystal Dangerfield, another smaller guard, trying to cancel the screen and not allow for her to use this flat angle screen and get towards the outer third. Trying to also funnel her towards the nail help. The nail help here from Zia Cook is non-existent and is super late. Dangerfield does do a very good job in terms of holding her own, in terms of guarding her yard. But Chennedy is only doing that in terms of threatening that nail just to get the contact, bump, spin. Now she's able to get downhill. And again, because the big in terms of De'Arica Hamby is all the way near the free throw line up to touch on the screen, there's no true size and rim protection in the paint. Chennedy is able to navigate there. And then she's able to get up, again, another uncontested layup. As you see her at the release point, nobody's there to contest it. And Kennedy's been money in the restricted area all season. The best guard in terms of points scored in the paint and efficiency on the volume of points scored in the paint this season. And we see, again, her just countering the leverage there, just doing just that. And then this final rep of this film session, again, just looking at Chennedy accepting two to the ball with patience and then being able to just play in space with a tight handle. No one on the court is quicker than her, accepts the double team, does a good job stealing back the leverage. As you see Odyssey Sims trying to navigate the screen and get back into the picture. The crossover helps her steal leverage. And now she's downhill, and it's 5-on-3 for the Chicago Sky. There's 2 defenders behind in the rear view of Chennedy Carter as she turns the corner. 5-on-3 for the Chicago Sky. Nothing bad is coming out of this, whether she passes it or she finds a crevice to drive through and ultimately score. We're going to see her do just that here. Gets to the bucket, and that's how Chennedy finishes the game. Just great on great from the Chicago Sky in multiple possessions as we saw here. Kennedy's the best decision maker on the team. She's one of the best guards in the league, and she had one of her best games in terms of her temperament and her disposition in terms of accepting the double teams and playing off of that with efficiency.